That is one of my favourite moments in a movie of all time.
Well, at least I'm out of the red.
Welcome everyone to Primetime Mitch, and today I am going to be ranking all 7 of the Jurassic movies. That's from the original in 1993 right the way up until Rebirth that I watched just a couple of weeks ago. I've always had a big fondness for this franchise and a fondness for dinosaurs actually that stretches back to when I was a very small child. So I'm looking forward to doing this little ranking today. It's been a while since I did a ranking actually. Just to let you know, guys, I've been doing videos monthly on what I've watched that month and ranking my top 5 out of all the movies, usually referring back to my Letterboxd. If it would interest you to know what I've enjoyed in the month, doesn't have to be new releases from that month, it can be anything at all that I've seen. Do check out my Letterboxd profile down below in the description, the link is there, and also those 2 videos are now on my channel for you to watch. And as ever, I would really appreciate it if you like what I do and you want to support this channel, please drop a like down below on this video and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. There's a gradual progression in Primetime Mitch at the moment and all you guys are responsible for that and I really appreciate it. So without further ado, it's time for some dinosaur discussion. Let's head into my rankings now and let's look at what came at the very bottom of the list at number 7. In at number 7, I don't think this is too much of a surprise, but that is Jurassic World Dominion, released in July of 2022. I was so disappointed in this when I saw it, especially when you look at the cast that they brought back, the old originals. You had Laura Dern, you had Sam Neill, you had Jeff Goldblum, and not just bringing them back, but mixing them in with the characters we'd grown accustomed to in the previous 2 Jurassic World movies, in Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt's respective roles as Owen and Claire. So I thought it would be a really interesting mix, and also one of the positives from the movie before, Fallen Kingdom, was that we got that hint that dinosaurs had now broken out into the world and we were going to get that Jurassic World that Ian Malcolm in that movie promised. So the mixing of humans and dinosaurs was something I was really looking forward to. We got a little bit of a taste of it in the second movie in this franchise, which I'll talk about later, but I was looking forward to seeing what they could do with this. I was a little bit late watching this movie, but when I did, I expected more than what I got. Instead of picking up the baton from the last movie and running with that idea, they go down a completely different route. It's almost too political. There is giant locusts, which are pretty gruesome and nasty to look at the start, but then you start realizing that a lot of this movie seems to be based around them, which it should never have been. I don't think the writing in this movie is quite as strong as it should be. I think there's more pressure on them to write better when you bring the old characters back because we're all accustomed to how they are. And I think, like many things, when we try and recreate, we're in danger of making a parody. And some of Ian Malcolm's lines, Jeff Goldblum delivered them in the same way as he did in the original movies, but they didn't have the same punch. They felt like they were lines given to him, not things that he was coming out with himself. Sam Neill is great. I always like to see him in anything. I did like the score as his character is revealed to be returning. That was quite nice. And Laura Dern does a good job again with what she's got, but I don't think she has very much. I think Sam Neill and her journey throughout this movie is very different to what it has been before and what it should be. Creeping around these government facilities, almost sort of spy-like. It just didn't seem in keeping with 2 people that were very passionate about the dinosaurs themselves. My biggest problem with this movie, strangely, you'd think it would be the swerve in direction, but it's actually the way this movie feels like an action movie as opposed to a dinosaur creature feature movie. There is too much borderline Mission Impossible style scenes in this movie which take me right out of it, and the dinosaurs just seem second fiddle to everything. It's such a disappointing sequel that promised so much, and I think because it promised so much, that's why it's so low in the rankings for me. It does have some nice dinosaur scenes. I like the continuation of the story with Blue, and it almost wraps her story up a little, which is nice. The dinosaurs always look great. I mean, they're just not in a particularly good tale. I think the addition of the Therizinosaurus, I believe I pronounced that right. Do feel free to tell me if I haven't. I think the inclusion of that dinosaur was nice, the one with a big sort of Freddy Krueger kind of hands. I don't know how accurate it is that it would be attacking the other dinosaurs. And again, I'm not one to question that. That's for the purists. But there were some nice dinosaur inclusions in this. I just think it didn't feel like a strong enough story for them to have enough of an impact in this. It felt like a movie they were obliged to make. I'm not saying I didn't have any fun with it at all, but for the most part, it was a flat one for me. So Dominion is definitely my least favourite of the franchise. Coming in at number 6, it's not all in order, don't worry, but it is going to be Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. The precursor to Dominion. Fallen Kingdom, again, is one of those that I don't have a great deal of enjoyment from when I watch it. There are some fun moments in it. I think the volcanic eruption is quite an entertaining sequence. And I do quite like the different setting in the house. It felt a bit more claustrophobic. I quite like that. But overall, this movie it feels a bit more mean-spirited as well. Now, I'm not saying we should all be wrapped in cotton wool and not giving anything serious in these movies, because after all, there was a great deal of horror in the elements of the first one. But there is something really bitter tasting about seeing the brachiosaur on the island while the boat's coming away, and he's obviously going to perish amongst the volcanic eruption and the flames, and it just felt horrible. And the same when you see the dinosaurs falling over the cliff into the water after the eruption, and it starts off like that, so you feel bad at the beginning, and I don't think it offers really a great deal more after that. I wasn't a fan of the raptor hybrid mutation. I don't think that made quite as much sense as the one in the previous movie. Again, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard work hard in this. I think they're probably one of the positives, seeing their characters develop. I don't think they're a particularly convincing couple. Even when they're arguing and fighting, I don't think they were very convincing. It all seemed a bit juvenile and not tremendously engaging for me. But as characters, I thought they were quite good. Maybe not as a tandem unit, but certainly as individuals, I found them very interesting. I don't mind Fallen Kingdom as a watch every once in a while, but like I said, it doesn't give me the same enjoyment as others do in this, but it's not quite on the level of Dominion as being a complete disappointment like that one was. It didn't promise too much. It was almost like we didn't expect a sequel to come from Jurassic World, and when it did, it was like, oh, okay, it was all right, but there was probably more in this movie that I didn't like than what I did like. And also, when I saw that Jeff Goldblum was going to be in this movie, I was a bit disappointed that he was given sort of the bookends of the movie. He was given the start when he makes a big speech in front of the court, and then the same thing at the end. I thought he was going to be more involved in this, which is probably what contributed to my disappointment with Dominion. Was when we did see more of him, we didn't see the best of him. But this one sort of got my hopes up when I heard he was involved, and then it was a bit of a anticlimax, really. I think where some of these sequels have suffered is that there is a great deal of sort of ethical, moral questions being asked throughout, and the whole human beings getting involved and trying to cash in on it. Where it's very believable and where it is completely worth talking about, I think sometimes it damages the fun in the movie. And I think when you see so many loathsome humans doing the things they're doing, you're on the side of the dinosaurs, but at the same time, your characters that you're following throughout are fighting against them or fighting them off. And I think sometimes they could do with dialing back some of that political stuff in order for a better movie to come out of it. But Fallen Kingdom is not terrible. Again, I can still watch it. I can still have fun with it. It's just not really one that I hold in high regard. In at number 5 is going to be my recent watch, Jurassic World Rebirth. I had more fun with this movie than the two that preceded it. That's an absolute given, and that's why it's above them in the list. Absolutely where it should be in this list for me. I had fun with certain elements. The sea chase with the Mosasaurus is absolutely fantastic. That is grade A Jurassic action. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see. And also the CGI is on point in this. Can't complain about it. That is a kind of thing that I'm always very wary of. I want to see some good practical effects as an animatronic as well as CGI. But in this, because of the grand nature and scale of these animals, it's very difficult to get animatronics and things like that involved and practical effects involved when it's such a large scale production. The Mosasaurus looks fantastic in this. The chase is full of suspense. It's thrilling. I really enjoyed that part of the movie. Again, they hammer home a story where a corporation is making money off the dinosaurs. But my biggest problem with this movie automatically was the separation between the dinosaurs and humans. You've got humans apparently who don't give a shit about the dinosaurs anymore. I can't believe that. I don't buy it. I know we're in an age of apathy. I know we're in a generation now where everyone's head's in their phones. Everyone's attention span is shorter than it's ever been. But I'm sorry, I can't buy that everyone in this world suddenly gets bored of these gigantic prehistoric monsters that have been dead for millions of years and now have come back. I can't believe. I think that actually, I know you never hear me say this, that might be doing the human race just a little injustice. And also because you've got the dinosaurs who are now living on this island close to the equator, and that's where they reside because that's where they can survive and have the best chance of a healthy life. You have put this huge barrier now between the humans and the dinosaurs when in Fallen Kingdom you promised to bring them closer together than ever, and Dominion obviously undid all that, and now we're left with this situation where humans aren't to go near the dinosaurs and the dinosaurs aren't going to come near the humans, and you don't cross these waters and that. I don't know where you go from here with this movie. My worry with Rebirth was that I don't actually know where you can go now. You have put this void between the two entities that now there's not a whole lot left. I didn't get the title of Rebirth. I don't understand what was Rebirth about it. It was very similar in structure to a lot of the movies that have been before. Again, you've got a corporation. Again, you've got morals coming into play. And just like the previous two movies, you have a mutation angle where they've mutated and created hybrid dinosaurs out of the various DNAs.
Crossbreeding of species, engineered entertainments, they call them.
Genetically altered freaks?
And the problem being is, with this, we are promised this D-Rex, this giant, scary, monstrous thing that they've created in this lab. And the start of it, one of the positives of this movie, the start of it was quite entertaining, barring the snicker wrapper in the vent, which causes the entire place to shut down. I mean, somebody really should have got the technicians in on that beforehand to make sure something so ludicrous doesn't happen. But I loved the title sequence, the Universal Monster style title sequence. It looked fantastic. I was really excited at that point. But when you see the animal at the end, or the thing at the end, it is like a giant chestburster or the Cloverfield monster. It doesn't look like a dinosaur. And this is a Jurassic movie. I'm not watching a science fiction monster movie so much as I'm watching a movie about dinosaurs and the prehistoric age and them mingling with our life now. I get that the humans have an influence now where they can create things for their own amusement or their own profit and gain. I wanted it to at least look like a dinosaur, and it didn't. It looked more like something out of Alien. And to be honest with you, after it had finished attacking the helicopters and biting people in half, the threat of it disappeared altogether. There is a lot of holes in the logic in this movie. They're going back out into sea at the end on a smaller boat than the big military one you arrived on when you were being attacked by the Mosasaurs and the Spinosaurus. That was a little bizarre to end like that. The family, the way they separated the family from the mercenaries and didn't really bring them together at any point in the conclusion, apart from right near the end. That didn't seem to work for me either. It was like watching two separate movies. Some character decisions are absolutely baffling. The raft with the T-Rex especially, although the sleeping T-Rex I thought looked fantastic. And although Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali do a great job with their characters with very little to go off, they get a very small scene where you kind of get the gist of what's going on with the pair of them, but you never really know their relationship or understand why they're close. I think that Zora, Scarlett Johansson's character, I think that she turns very quickly morally without any real build-up. But I think her performance in this movie is good. She is usually good, in fairness. And there are some great action sequences in this. You don't see any you barely see any raptors. Once you see a raptor and it is quickly disposed of, which is the least I've ever seen in a Jurassic movie. But overall, I did have a little bit more fun with this. I don't think it was as irritating as ones before, despite the constant holes in the logic. There was something to be had from this. I don't like recreations of classic scenes if you don't have the same build-up. If you know on that one. But other than that, Rebirth, I still enjoyed it more than Dominion and Fallen Kingdom, so it is rightfully in at number 5. Number 4 has actually surprised me tremendously. It's Jurassic Park 3. I went into this movie a little bit late because when it came out, I wasn't really interested in watching it. Even though I'd enjoyed the ones previous, I wasn't too thrilled about it at the time. I'm not absolutely sure why. I think maybe at that point I was turning my head towards the horrors that were going on at the time and I just never got round to it. So I watched this one very recently and I was not expecting to like this one at all. It is very, very B movie. It feels like an early attempt at a dinosaur movie before this franchise started. There is some quite cheesy, corny scenes in it. I think when a Spinosaurus or something that's attacking the plane when they've crashed, I think it looks at times like the most low-budget dinosaur you've ever seen. Some of the shots as well. The movie is shot very strangely. There's a lot of sort of quirky comedic sort of angles and effects used in this. But I actually think overall, I had a lot of fun with this and I had a lot more fun than I was intending on having with it. Sam Neill in this is as good as ever, I feel. He's not misused like he was in Dominion. He still has that same zest and that desire to preserve the dinosaurs and explain why they are important to him. I quite like the family dynamic in this one, the two parents searching for the son. They were fairly irritating in the first half of this movie, especially the mother, who just came across as a petulant sort of child. You couldn't understand how they were ever in a relationship, let alone married and parents of a child. But they do grow on you over time. They start sort of fitting in to the rest of the characters around them. There are some great shots. I said there's some strange comedic shots, but there's one great shot where they're at the fence and they turn around and the Spinosaurus is stood behind them just looking at them. I thought that was a really quite a scary scene actually. And it's interesting that they use the Spinosaurus over the T-Rex in this. They establish that very early on when they fight and it just wipes it out. I thought that was quite a brave decision considering how sensational and popular the T-Rex had been in the previous entries. So they went for something different here and I do think it worked. And although some bits of it are a bit far-fetched and a bit corny, like I said, it does feel like a low-budget movie. Sometimes you almost get that spoof kind of feel to it. I did have more fun with this one than I expected. And the only reason it's sort of down on the list, despite me not really having too many negative things to say about it, is just I don't think as a movie it's that brilliant. It's just fun. Whereas I think there are more qualities to the ones above it. Jurassic Park 3, though, in at 4. Well done. This is where I might get some opposition. Because at the point of 7, 6 and 5, I think everybody's sort of quite similar, unless you really have a problem with the movie. But I am going to put in at number 3, Jurassic World. Now, this was a close run thing because Jurassic World has one of my favourite movie moments of all time in it. The ending of Jurassic World and the redemption for the raptors, the T-Rex being brought out of the darkness to try and save them at the end is one of my favourite parts, but nothing will compare to the cheer-inducing moment of joy when the Mosasaurus comes out and finishes the job on the evil Indominus Rex. That is one of my favourite moments in a movie of all time. And if I do a video on my favourite movie moments of all time, that one will be up there. So that really pushes this one high up the list. I actually had a lot of fun with this movie. You get introduced to Claire, Bryce Dallas Howard's character, and Owen Chris Pratt's character. You get introduced to them in this movie. It's a little bit different, something new, some new characters to work with. And you realise that Claire is kind of just all business. She's not really got any time for the children she's supposed to be looking looking after. I don't actually think she's in the wrong with a lot of that. She's literally at work while they're there, so she can't be expected to not be doing her job, especially when you've got a park full of people like that. But I loved the idea of that park in general. This Jurassic World has actually been opened in the vision of John Hammond from the first movie. He wanted this Jurassic Park to be open to the public. We've now got it. And of course, you know that inevitable problem is going to arise where you mess around with the DNA and you create something that you think is going to be more exciting, because they were still playing on. Kids aren't really excited anymore about dinosaurs, or they need something bigger and better and scarier and stronger. That's early on, and again, that's even less believable really. But they create the Indominus Rex and it looks incredible. And the thing that really made this stand out above the other hybrids in the franchise, or certainly the Jurassic World franchise, was how ruthless it was with other dinosaurs. It isn't eating them, it's just killing them for sport. It is literally a living, breathing evil. And I thought that was fantastic. And of course, it's the first time we've seen it, so I suppose when something gets done again, you're like, yeah, I've seen that, so maybe that works for it because it was the original idea. But I still liked it, and I still liked how it still had that dinosaur look to it. Almost looked like a vicious, more aggressive and feral combination of a T-Rex, a Spinosaurus, Allosaurus, whatever. It looks like it needs destroying, and I quite liked that throughout, that this thing was on the loose and it was just causing misery out there, not just for the people but for the dinosaurs themselves. You got from Jurassic World the introductions of the other dinosaurs, the flying ones. I love the scene where they're picking up the baby Triceratops. I think that's so funny. I shouldn't laugh. I apologize if it made you very sad, but I love that scene. I liked the almost taming of the raptors from Owen's character. I thought him trying to communicate with them and trying to understand them and get through to them and control them in a way, maybe not, that isn't too great, but they develop an understanding, which you then see as a good thing going forward when you see Blue's story. But you never lose sight of how dangerous they are and how much they can turn like that. So that was good. I enjoyed that as well. Jurassic World doesn't really have too many flaws. I mean, they do sort of use a bit more CGI in this. Again, it depends how quickly you gravitate towards Claire's character in this. The kids, how you feel about them. Because sometimes when you have a couple of kids in a movie, you've got to really get a performance out of them that doesn't irritate or sidetrack. I don't think they do in this, very much like the first. I think they work well. And overall, I like this movie, and I can put it on, I can watch it at any time. So I am happy with where it is on the list. I've just got a lot of sentimental love for the one above it. Okay, down to my final two. I think you've sort of already got an idea in your mind of what these two are going to be, and the order I imagine you know. But number two, controversially to many, I imagine, is going to be Jurassic Park 2 Lost World. I am very, very weak when it comes to this movie. I loved this when it came out, and I think because in the first one I really enjoyed Jeff Goldblum's character of Ian Malcolm. I wanted to see more of him because he damages his leg and he's out of action for the most part, lying there with his chest on display to the world, that I thought I'd love it if he could come back and do a bit more. Not only does he come back and do a bit more, he is the lead in this movie, and I loved that. And I like the sort of immediate transition you get to him when the girl on the beach is being attacked by the little lizardy things. Please tell me the name of them in the comments. I've totally forgotten. I've drawn a blank. They go from her screaming on the beach to Goldblum stood in front of a beach poster with this big grin on his face. I thought that was a really funny start to the movie. I think all the way through it, I mean, I've heard people say that there's just not a lot going with the story in this. I think at this point I am okay with there not being a really heavy story. When you look at how the heavy stories worked for the majority of the Jurassic World half of this franchise, maybe it's better when you're back to basics. There's still a lot of horror in this. I really enjoy the sequence at the end when the T-Rex is let loose in LA. That's kind of what I was hoping for with Dominion that we never got. I think that bit works brilliantly. I love it running alongside the bus and smashing it with its head. And there is a lot of good, strong character work in this. Julianne Moore fits into this movie really well and is very believable. I was always overjoyed that my favourite actor of all time, Pete Postlethwaite, is in this movie as Roland. He is fantastic, I think, all the way through this, and he has this lovely twisting character arc at the end where he goes, I've seen enough death, I'm not poaching these things anymore and I'm done, and he just walks out of the movie.
There's a job for you at the park in San Diego if you want it. No, thank you. I believe I've spent enough time in the company of death.
I loved that. I thought he was really strong in this film, and he's brilliant in everything. If you can watch a movie with him in, please find them, because they're gems, most of them. I was a big fan of some of the kills in this. The dinosaurs were still as badass as ever in this. Raptors in the cornfield is a really good horror scene. It's been done many times over with other movies in the horror genre. So it was nice to sort of mix the dinosaurs into that and see them picking off people one by one and watching them disappear into the grass. I loved the scene where the guy gets bitten on both sides by the T-Rexes and pulled apart. And there's a great scene with the truck going over the edge of the cliff. And there's real suspense in that one. Very similar in suspense to that classic scene actually from the first, which we'll talk about. But yeah, Lost World, it gets a bad rap from a lot of people. You know, this is low down on many people's lists. I've seen Jurassic Park 3 higher than this. And I understand if you have fun with Jurassic Park 3 to the extent where it goes above Lost World and Jurassic World and those, fine, because it is a fun movie. But this to me was a lot of fun, and it still kept that magic of the first one. Might have been when I watched it so closely after the first one. I watched it pretty much as soon as it came out, this one in the cinemas. So maybe that's why I enjoy it a little bit more. But Lost World will always be 2 for me unless they do something amazing in the next installment.
Sarah! Sarah Harding! How many Sarahs do you think are on this island?
And, well, you know, Jurassic Park, 1993. To me, there aren't many movies in this world that you can call perfect movies, particularly when they have had movies before that have been similar or they're part of a franchise. This one is, to me, one of the few perfect movies out there. It is there with Jaws. It is there with Shawshank and movies like that to me. The effects were mind-blowing when I was a kid. I watched this movie. I'd just been in hospital. I'd had quite a bad leg injury and I had stitches, and I'd been in over the weekend, and I was at home and I had my foot up on the sofa, and I was 7 years old at this point. And this was a few months after the release, because back then, when I was so young, I wasn't immediately seeing things at the cinema. It wasn't in my control at that time, or it was maybe a parent thing. They couldn't take me out, or they didn't want to because of the ratings and things like that. Whatever it was, I used to remember watching movies a few months after they'd come out on release, and they'd come on Sky Movies, and I would watch it on that, or we would get the VHS when it came out. I've had similar experiences with Scream. I watched Scream about 10, 11 months after it was released, because obviously it was released slightly before in America and we didn't get it over here for a bit. And then when it came out on VHS and it was there to rent in Blockbuster, I was straight out for that. Obviously somebody did it for me. I wasn't quite old enough at that point to watch it. And I think similar happened with this, but because I was a child and had a lot of distractions, I wasn't a big movie child at that point. So it was just a reward really for my time spent in hospital. We're going to get Jurassic Park and we're all going to watch it. And it was an experience I will never forget. That first shot of the Brachiosaur and Sam Neill taking the glasses off, it is iconic and cannot be replicated. Certainly not when you've already seen dinosaurs before, which is where I think Rebirth failed. We'd already seen an amazing sequence with the Mosasaurus. That wasn't, as incredible as those dinosaurs did look, it wasn't quite the moment that this one was. I had watched a dinosaur movie before Jurassic Park when I was about 6, and it was a VHS movie, recorded movie, off one of the channels, and it was called Baby Dinosaur. Really old school movie, and it's actually not bad. I'd strongly suggest giving it a watch as a bit of a fun little B movie about dinosaurs, and the effects aren't terrible, but this was off the charts. And in particular, when you see that sequence with the T-Rex and the car and the suspense and the horror that is involved in that. I think I mentioned this in my scary scenes in non-horror video I did not long back. It's worth checking that out. But I mentioned the ripple in the water on the glass of water on the dashboard.
You feel that?
Being really frightening as a child, and then it emerging, and you see all the fence beams pinging out, and he comes through, and you finally see that Tyrannosaurus, and it's just unbelievable. That as a kid is an amazing experience, and I'm so grateful I was a kid when that came out, because there is no experience like that. The characters in this movie are fantastic. Alan Grant is, to me, an icon. a movie icon, and Sam Neill was brilliant in this, and I liked him ever since I watched this movie. I wanted to see more with him in. And the kids are great in this movie as well. I love they're flocking this way with the Gallimimus.
They're flocking this way.
And obviously, of course, Jeff Goldblum, I love anyway. I hadn't really been introduced to him too much as a kid, I don't think. I don't think I saw The Fly until I was about 13. So I hadn't really seen an awful lot of him, but I loved him in this. I thought it was very funny. And I actually had an annual, a Jurassic Park annual, where you could read the story of the movie as like a condensed novel. And I remember sitting and watching the movie while I was reading the book. And you get to notice some of the other characters that sort of get picked off nearer the end. I love the fact that Richard Attenborough is in the first two movies, because he is the whole reason in the story why this exists. And it's great that he got to be the sort of spearhead of it. And he plays his part really well as a guy that sort of wants to do something amazing but doesn't really think it through. I love the fascination on Sam Neill's face and the joy he has when he's helping the raptor come out of its egg. They sort of recreate that kind of well with the Doctor in Rebirth, where he's amazed. He's finally got to see this dinosaur up close and personal, firsthand, and touch one. So they recreated that, but never quite to that level. It was a bit better though than the brachiosaur recreation. To me, one of the greatest scenes in this, and one of the best images. I would love a poster of this somewhere, but when the T-Rex comes in at the end and saves them from the raptors, and the sash falls down, sort of billows down around it as it's roaring. And yeah, there's just so many moments in this movie I can talk about and quote and memorize just by thinking about it now. It's been a while since I watched the original. It will always be the greatest of this franchise. They will, unless a miracle occurs, this is the benchmark, and it stays where it is for me. Jurassic Park, one of the greatest movies of all time, and 1000% tops this list.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
So that's my list. Do you agree with most of it? Do you agree with all of it? I'd be amazed if anybody has actually got Lost World as a second movie in this list. Your opinion is always fascinating to me. I watch a lot of videos online of other reviews and other rankings because I like to know how people think. I love the diversity of opinion in movies and how much one person's trash is another person's treasure, and that's the beauty of this community. So thank you so much for watching my Jurassic Park rankings video today. If you enjoyed this, please hit a like down below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Feel free to share to social media and to follow me on social media. I'm always putting out content on Instagram, TikTok, X, Blue Sky, Threads. I'm on them all. I've always got something to say at some point during the day on all of them. It's a lot to keep up with, but I meet a lot of people and I enjoy networking with like-minded folk from the movie community and the horror community. I appreciate all your support for Primetime Mitch, and I will catch you again very soon. Take care, everybody.